Okay, so for the longest time, I have actually strung my own rackets.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that like doesn't make a ton of sense. I spent like, I don't know,
I remember when
some
you got that.
ungodly amount of money on a stringing machine because I was like, nah, dog, I don't want like the like manual one. I want like the electronic one, and I'm gonna like string my rackets all the time, and I'm gonna do it so often that it's gonna pay for itself, and I'll even like I'll do it for like buddies, and I'll charge them $10 or whatever, and like. Come on, get real. Anyway, the point is, I spent like thousands of dollars on a racket stringing machine that I have probably used 100 times, maybe, at a grand total savings of about $12 to $13 a pop. That's about how much money I save doing it myself. But one of the benefits of doing it myself is that instead of having like the brand logo, Yonex or Li Ning or whatever, put onto the strings with like the marker, I can print my own stencils and get my own marker ink, and then I can put whatever I want. So lots of people have like super cool things that they stencil onto their rackets, like angry pandas or whatever.
Sure.
So I got it in my head that I was like, oh, I have an Ultimaker 2 extended that sits in my side room that I almost never use except to print random toys off Thingiverse for my kids. I am going to make my own racket stencils. So here's my first attempt. I let my daughter pick which one she wanted. I really should have probably grabbed her racket to show you guys the end result. That would have been a sensible thing to do. Whatever, the point is it put black ink on the strings. It worked. And she decided she wanted a 4-leaf clover. That's what that is, if that's what you're trying to figure out right now.
No, is that paper?
No, it's filament.
Okay, yeah. Just
Okay.
super thin.
Yeah. So anyway, I am not a 3D printing expert. I have people like Jake and Colin and Alex to do that for me. So usually when I want something 3D printed, I'm like, hey, one of you, can you design a thing and print it for me? Or Matthias, there's literally a half a dozen people on staff that can just kind of conjure anything I could possibly need and 3D print it for me. So I've gone full CEO mode on 3D printing and gone, you know what? It's actually cheaper for me to hire someone to do this for me than it is for me to learn to do it myself.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
this is one of the first times that I have ever actually tried to create something from scratch to 3D print. So I found this software called Matter Control 2.0, and it specifically has a function called, what is it called? Image converter. So you can just find any image you want and it will convert it into a 3D model. And then all you have to do is adjust the depth, which the guide that I found said that the field was in millimeters. Turns out they have since updated the software. It is now in centimeters. That was a close call. We almost printed a 1 centimeter thick stencil with completely solid fill, because I didn't want it to, do anything other than complete fill, so that would have been like a pound of filament or whatever at this size. Anyway, so they've converted that to centimeters. We got that one figured out. But the real problem for me was not that I'm a moron as far as 3D printing goes, but actually that I'm a Photoshop moron. So it has a function where you're supposed to just bring in any black and white image. This did not start out black and white, by the way. It started out green, so I had to do a whole thing in paint.net where you convert to black and white with like some tolerance or whatever. Regular paint wouldn't do it. Don't you hate that? When something looks solid, like a solid color, and you get the paint bucket and it fills in like 30% of it. You're like, oh
Yeah.
no, that was
Yeah.
an ever slightly different shade of green. So I had to figure out how to do that in paint.net. Then I ran into the real problem, because all of that stuff that I've like either pretty much done before or was very straightforward. In paint.net, okay, I had this. Let me just bring up my thing here. Okay, in paint.net, I had this. And you would think that this isn't a problem. So this right here is a transparency layer, because I didn't want the stencil to be a rectangle, right? Why would I want to print out a whole bunch more filament here if the racket head is an oval and my graphic is an oval shape? I could not, for the love of all that is good, figure out how to get rid of it. So in paint.net, if I save as PNG, theoretically, this image you would think would be an oval shaped image. It's not.
No.
And when you search for how to get rid of checkerboard background, you end up, it's one of those things where Google is too good at knowing what the problem probably is and doesn't give you anything but the most obvious answer. So every single help thread I found was people who don't understand what a transparency layer is. And they were trying to get rid of it because they thought it was part of their image. And I was like, no, I want an oval shaped canvas. That's what I actually want. And as far as I could tell, there was no way to do it. So my workaround ended up being to invert the colors. I think what I ended up doing was making that actually black and then in like double inverting, or rather not inverting the colors in Matter Control 2.0 so that this outer rectangle, which I never did get rid of, was just this, it was blank. So that is my long and boring story about 3D printing stencils. And after all this frustration, I'm finally printing the thing and my wife walks in and she goes, why didn't you just do that on the Cricut?
Is that an acrylic cutter?
It's like kind of an everything cutter. It's like a little CNC cutter thing for like craft clubs. Like it's
all I was thinking about
actually
during that
the
whole
perfect
story,
tool.
and I had seen the spoiler of Yvonne walking in and asking why he didn't just use the Cricut. But all I was thinking of that whole time is like, man, there must have been like a plethora of ways to do this better.
Like a way better tool for this job. Yes.
Yeah, like, man, using a 3D printer for this is wild.
And the thing about the Cricut too is that it comes with like housewife grade software. Like it's like kid friendly software. So it really is designed to make it so that just about anyone can steal an image on Google image search and turn it into anything they want. And meanwhile, I'm figuring out how to 3D print it. But you know what, Luke? You know what? No, f you, because this is so durable, okay? This is made of high quality PLA filament, okay? And I might have printed it the wrong size, but darn it, it's gonna last forever.
Nice.
So the point of the story is, guys, hit me up on Twitter actually don't use the handle that's on this thing. Use at Linus G. Sebastian. And I want you guys to send me what I should put on my racket. Because after all of this, I put the 4-leaf clover on my daughter's racket and it worked great. It worked exactly as I would have expected it to. But I could not decide what to put on mine. So guys, help me out here. Help me out. Bruh, that's sexist, not gonna lie. Okay, you're right. You're right. The Cricut in its, hold on a second. What is the color scheme of this thing? The Cricut machine in its soft baby blue color scheme is definitely marketed to manly men. I'm sorry. I did it wrong. I said a bad wrong speak thing.
House person.
House person. It could have been any kind of house person. Any kind of house person. Okay? Nick's messaging me already. Look, Nick, you got to stop pinging the entire chat with Teams messages. I'm muting your notifications. See you later. Okay, the reason I called it that is because that's the only person in this house who uses it. Okay? And only when she's not at work and not busy. So there you go.